Yay Networks.
So Anna Grace, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be back. Last time I was here, I think we were talking about human design, and now we have a whole nother slew of information. So
I know. Oh my gosh. Well, and I feel like you've been growing so much. Will you tell everybody about what you do, your podcast that, by the way, it topped the charts upon its premiere? Share all the things. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me back. It feels good to be here.
Oh.
So yeah, it's funny because Brit was one of my first kind of underground clients because I was so I'm an Akashic record. So I'll introduce myself. Hi guys, I'm Anna Grace Newell. I am an intuitive guide, clairvoyant, medium, and Akashic records practitioner, energy reader, all the things. I was originally a stylist and I built like a big following on Instagram and fashion. And I started privately seeing clients doing readings and actually did a reading for Brit. I read her Akashic record, so we can talk about that too. But so for years, it was kind of just this like secret word of mouth thing that I did. Like a friend of a friend would be like, oh, Anna Grace needs to do a reading for you. But I was scared to just throw it out on Instagram because it is a little bit, it's spiritual and maybe not for everyone. And I had built an audience just based off fashion. Well, moved to Florida. I live in Jacksonville, Ponte Vedra. And I decided I live somewhere new. I wanted to start a podcast because that would be a great way to connect with people, maybe build a community in a new city because I really didn't know anyone. It was totally a selfish, like I can interview people, get to know them and share. I'm going to share my Akashic records and my energy reading practice. And I shared my first story, which is how I got here. I actually had a near-death experience. I talk about how I was the least spiritual person on the planet, and overnight I became the most spiritual person on the planet. Like my family was like, "What happened to you?"
Well, I feel like when you're done with your intro, we have to talk about that.
Yes,
it's a very impactful story.
Yes, so we'll totally go there. So I shared my practice, and I started having a wait list about a year ago of people wanting to see me. I really hadn't even told anyone, and I launched the podcast, shared the near-death experience, and immediately the podcast went #1 in spirituality on Apple Podcasts. So, and it was crazy because, this is a good example, you guys. For years, I was too scared to share the story and then immediately put it out and it charted. That was just such confirmation from the universe that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing and sharing what I was supposed to be sharing. And, for years I was scared people were going to make fun of me or whatever. And when I moved to Florida, I just said, fuck it. This is me. This is who I am.
I love it. Yes. It's like your coming out party. It's like, this is who you really are. And you're just shining and you're really changing people's lives and giving people hope. I know. So when you did the reading for me, it was about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I had just been through such a tough time. Like my father had passed away. I was thinking of moving to Kansas City, which I live in Kansas City now. So like so much has changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like just complete whatever. And you gave me so much comfort, so much peace, so much hope. You connected me with my dad.
Yeah.
Like, so I have experienced your mediumship firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me things that I needed to hear to like move on, to be at peace, because I was really, really struggling, like truly. And I feel like the universe brought you into my life at just the most perfect time. And I know that you are doing that for so many people now with AG University, your podcast, and with like your courses and everything. You're just giving people the tools to connect to their highest selves. And it's amazing. I love it. I'm obsessed.
Thank you. Well, and thank you for that beautiful message about your reading too, because I feel like the mediumship piece, it's when people they need more clarity or certainty or closure. And that's when it can be such a beautiful gift, because I find a lot of people think the word like medium is scary or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's just sometimes it's exactly what you need to hear. So
yeah. Well, will you explain to everybody like your near-death experience story and then how you do your readings, like how you access the Akashic records and how you do end up connecting with, people who have crossed over?
Yeah, totally.
So exciting.
So let's see where to begin. Okay. Do you want to start with the near-death experience?
Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Well, and people can hear all this on your podcast also. AG University to really hear the full thing. So yeah, you can give us like the Cliff's notes and then people listen to the full thing over there.
Yes. So it's the first episode of my podcast that I launched, AG University. If you guys want the full in-depth story of the near-death experience. So I'll give you the highlights, but if you're like, I need more, you can check it out there. But essentially,
you need more, trust me.
Yeah. Thank you. So essentially, I was this was like the transitional point of your life, 25 to 26 year range. And I think I was just so far off track with where I was supposed to be on my path. The universe needed to kind of throat punch me and get me back to where I needed to be, which is where I am. So I was, I was really, really in the depths of struggling with an eating disorder, and I was overprescribed Adderall and Vyvanse. I was just taking too much for my frame, and there was so much negative, toxic thought cycles happening. I think I was just at that point, I would say was the lowest point of where I was mentally. And I don't even really know if people knew, but yeah. So I was 25 years old. I had a heart attack, and that's what the doctors say. I will say that I think who knows really what happened, because it was something so much greater than me. And that might just be an easy way to medically claim it. But I was literally vacuum sucked out of my body. And I saw myself, I was hovering over my body, and I was on an airplane. You guys got to listen to the whole story, because it's
the worst place to have some sort of experience like this.
Literally
sheer panic.
Terrifying, and just humiliating. Everyone on the plane is like, what? Yeah. And you're like, oh my God.
Like, not to make a spectacle, but okay, here we are.
Not to make a scene. Yeah. So I have this crazy experience. I'm sucked out of my body. And I had this at first I went from being terrified to being out of my body and feeling so much peace and love and just absolute calm. I was really like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to her. Like, it's heavy, it's clunky, it's hard being her. Like, I was able to observe everything that I had done up until that in my life and how it affected the people and affected myself and my family. And it was really just like a out of body experience. It wasn't like, I know some people have near death experiences. They're taken to like the gates of heaven and all these things. It wasn't like that for me, but it was the first time that I saw angels. And like true angels, and there's a difference, because there are angels that watch over us that were like saints or have existed in human form. And then there's angels that are like so much higher, like heavenly angels. They don't have a gender or even really a face. They're just these beautiful, like jellyfish light orb, but I knew they were angels, but I had never, it was like the craziest.
This.
Yeah.
That it was so amazing.
So amazing. And truly, you guys, up until this point, I was an atheist. I really hate to even say that out loud. It makes my heart hurt, but I was such a non-believer. I had sort of a negative experience with religion at a younger age. And I find that's actually pretty common. Some people are just like extremists and almost turn you off because it feels exclusive and whatever. So, I was so not into this stuff at all that, I really had my like shit rocked. I was just like,
you like couldn't ignore it. It was like, in your face to where it changed the way you view life, right? Everything
in my life going forward was different. Everything was changed. And this is the part that's interesting, that you guys just got to go there with me, because I find this part is very important for everyone. Well, I saw 3 things, and I'll just give you guys like the very tidbits, but these light beings that I'm seeing and connecting with, they communicated with me telepathically, which I actually have realized that when we are all just here walking around on Earth and we get like a little light bulb or a little idea or just something random comes into our mind, I often find that's someone on the other side trying to communicate with us. Like, you don't have to be an intuitive. You don't have to be a medium. You don't have to be all these things. We all have this angel team, because that's really what they said. No one ever dies alone. No one on this planet dies alone. No matter where you are, if you were physically alone, there will always be loved ones or angels or someone to guide you over to the other path. So it was a very sweet, comforting.
That's so nice.
I know. Because what's funny? I used to have this really crippling fear of death.
Oh yeah. I can relate to that.
Yeah. And my parents had me older in life, so they're much older. And my mom was like 40 when she had me. And I would get really upset. My parents are happy and healthy. Like there's nothing wrong. But I would like cry thinking, oh, one day my parents aren't going to be here or something.
Just like a sensitive kid, just from a young age, thinking about like death and like the bigger picture. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely kind of an odd little kid.
No, I was the same way. And I was also raised Catholic. Like there's so many bizarre parallels, even like with our significant others. Like,
oh yeah, I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, we speak the same language. So I totally get that. And I believe in angels and the whole thing.
Yeah.
But so when you kind of, I'm sorry, you didn't finish. You were saying the other things that you realized.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, basically this is the last part too, because I just like everyone to know this part is that I saw
of course. We want to know
the entire earth, how we were connected by this. Like I saw a grid around the whole entire earth and that all of us were energetically connected to each other through this grid. It would be as if there was a tree and we were all leaves on the same tree. Like, so that's when I really understood that, if we're holding anger or resentment or negative emotions towards someone else, we're also carrying those emotions in our body. We're so connected. And I think there's a lot of Bible text that's like honor thyself or treat thy neighbor as thyself. Yes. There were so many references and I physically saw like, oh, we are literally connected in this planet. And that's why, I just always want people to know that because I'm like, we're so much more connected. This like the intuitive and the clairvoyant and all the stuff that I do. People are like, that's so crazy. You don't have to be in person. I'm like, I don't have to be in person with you because we're connected energetically. We're all connected.
I love it. So it's like whatever you do to someone else, like that's in the Bible, whatever you do to someone else or the least of my brethren you do to me. And so it's sort of like
you're poisoning your own well. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. In so many ways. That's really beautiful. And I love, like, I feel like we all kind of have these feelings or these thoughts, but it's really, really such a confirmation to hear from someone like you who has actually seen it. A lot of the time we want to see to believe, it makes us feel more connected, like we can trust it more. So I think that's amazing. Even when I do readings for people, sometimes I'm surprised by what comes through.
Oh yeah.
And you talk about that when you do your readings. So it's so interesting to talk to someone like you who does this kind of stuff. So how did the connection start for you? Like, when did you first realize like, oh, I didn't just come back. I came back with, this connection to the other side.
Yeah. So I definitely felt like when I left my body, went to the other side, I saw these two light beings.
Yeah.
So I still work with them in the Akashic records. So they've never left me. And which it is kind of spooky because I feel like I've kind of stayed 1 foot in, 1 foot in both realms.
That's awesome. I love it.
Which it is good, but sometimes it is like a little confusing to just want to be like totally normal.
Yeah.
Because like
I'm getting a ping.
Yeah. Well, we're going to Disney World this week. Austin, my boyfriend's son is 11 and we're all going to Orlando. But for me, I'm so sensitive to like crowds and energy and,
you're like, earmuffs.
Totally like blinders because I'm not interested, in connecting with any energies when I'm in big crowded places. So anyways.
So does it just come in like that? Or do you have to sit down and like read someone's records? Or do you just get like these random hits?
So I kind of so when I initially came back right from this experience, it was like a veil had been pulled back and a fire hose of information was just coming at me because, I think my whole life, maybe I've had this gift. I just wasn't listening. And my dad told me I'd been that way as a child, like 8 years old. I was like, Dad, I'm going to help people. I'm going to come back. I'm going to take care of you. Like, and my dad's like, you're in second grade. Like, what are you even talking about? But I was like so prophetic as a child. And I think I blocked it for years. And then I got off Adderall and all the medication that was suppressing my gifts. And then it was like I thought I was going crazy. Like my dreams, I would dream stuff. It would happen the next day. And I started seeing things and like, I can really intensely hear things when I'm with people too. And I'm like, I thought I was going crazy. I'm crazy.
Wow. Anna Grace. And does that still happen now? Or have you kind of learned like when to turn it off, or do you have ways to block it out?
Yes. So
cool.
I did. So in quarantine, it was really great because that's kind of when I was talking with you, I believe it was quarantine. Yep. I was really in a heavy phase of coming out of training because I went and saw, it was the first time I ever saw an intuitive, and he was really into future casting. And he was like, you're supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And I was like, interesting. So I was so fascinated. And so I went to a schooling program, and then I did another schooling program. And then I was in like a practice phase for like a year of just doing readings all the time. And that's when I was able to turn it on and turn it off and set boundaries. So I'm actually teaching an energetic protection course for people that are sensitive. And you don't even have to be as deep into it as me, but we are all just feeling energy. It's coming. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's just siphoning all around us. And so having awareness that we create our own boundaries. I allow energies to communicate with me, and they're not allowed to communicate with me when I'm not, in it, just so I can have a normal experience.
Right. Yeah. You're like, I got to live too.
Yeah, totally. So when I do the Akashic records, that's very formal and structured. Yes. Okay. But then
will you explain what the Akashic records are to anyone who's unfamiliar? Because that is more of like a deep dive type thing.
Yeah, totally.
For us spiritualists.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I was just telling Austin this the other day. I don't know how of all modalities, because there's so many modalities. You can use cards, and there's crystals, and there's so many ways to connect. That's why spirituality is so cool, because you can make it your own.
Yes.
And how I landed on the Akashic records is because no one knows what the Akashic records is, even people who are spiritual. So
you're meant to bring it to light.
And you know what? That was a big reason as to why I actually didn't die, was to come back and to teach the Akashic records. So
wow.
So I'm like, okay, you guys really gave me a difficult task, because everyone's like, my parents are like, what is it? What is that called? Akashic records? I'm like, yes. And then everyone's like, is it a book? Is it a place? I'm like, so no. Okay. So the Akashic records is a collective consciousness energy. But the cool thing is that we all have one. So we all have this line that runs through our bodies from the top of our head up to the sky through, and that's our intuition line, it's in line with the chakra system. There's so many ways that it overlaps in other religious texts and cultures and traditions, but we have this line that connects us to our Akashic record. Every single human on this planet has an Akashic record. Another one that showed up in a ton of other religious texts, it's in the Bible, is the Book of Life. Many religions note it as the Akasha. It's literally like etched on the pyramids and hieroglyphics. It's been consistently everywhere, but it is sort of, it's just a little bit more complex to conceptualize, I guess, is why maybe people aren't as familiar, but now everyone's waking up, and it just feels really safe and familiar to people when I do the reading. So that's why I know that, and I feel so safe with this energy. So essentially we have this collective soul's library. Every single person has it. It's your book of life. It's your quote unquote God's plan, whatever religious belief or spiritual belief, it's your plan. And so I do soul's purpose readings. And in the Akashic records, it notes your past, present, future. It's your soul's journey. So it could be like past lives, your present life, maybe blocks you're not seeing, things that you need to work through, and future versions of self as well. So I have this bubble of energy that I open through an opening prayer, and I insert your name. So it's not like, it's just, I meditate pretty intensely. And then I have these angels that I mentioned in the beginning that work with me and guide me to deliver the information. And then I kind of go in. People usually submit questions like, what is my purpose right now? Why am I with my partner? Like, what am I to learn? I don't ever tell people yes or no. Like, I don't have the authority to tell you yes or no, because there's no wrong answer. Like, everything is a lesson. Right. And so I'll go in and get the information, and I can just really paint the picture for why you're experiencing something, what you're supposed to take away, or what blocks you're maybe not seeing that are holding you back, so that I can really reconnect people. Essentially, I'm seeing this highest version of you, and I'm giving you the action steps to connect with her or him.
My heart is like beating so fast right now, because I don't know. I just like was taken back to when you gave me my reading.
Yeah.
Like, you said things that shocked me. Like, I was like, there's no way you would ever know that. And you told me that my soul's purpose was to work with women to help them and to explore and like learn and teach about divine feminine energy.
Oh,
that's what you told me. Yep. And like, I remember that I wrote it down. Like, so yeah. And it was so dead on.
Yeah.
Everything you said was so dead on. It almost
I just got chills.
freaked me out. Yeah. Right. Like it was, so it's so interesting because the things that come through, it's like the things that you might need to hear, like to give you that next push.
Totally.
Like keep going or yeah.
Yeah. And it's every time I do a reading with someone, the readings that I do are just very empowering. Like that's there are some people that can focus on past lives or healings and there are lots of different lots of different facets that you can go through in the Akashic records because it is just this collective energy of the soul's library, right? I find showing people this highest path because I'll have people like I'll see a project or something that they've maybe thought about or started, but then they don't believe in it. So then when I am like, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Why aren't you doing this? And they're like, oh my gosh, how did you know that? Or that, wow, I've had that thought before, but I wasn't confident to pursue it. And I'm like, no.
Yes.
This is like being shown to you for a reason. It's put on your heart for a reason. And so I think it just gives people a confidence boost. Like, okay, I was on the right path and I'm going to go because we're all afraid of her. We all want to make sure we're investing our time and energy wisely. And so sometimes it's nice to just have this blueprint where you're like, okay, I see what I'm supposed to be doing. And this is meant for me. This is my purpose.
100%. And like on your TikTok, like I love to go to your TikTok because you have these like quick videos where you give like just quick info and tips and advice about like how to get your energy up. Or you did one that really stuck out to me because I know that you read a lot of like people who have a certain level of fame. Like you read for a lot of influencers and people, in the music industry in Nashville, and you keep their names private, but I know your clientele is, we would know who a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And, I really like how you talked about how if people feel like they're called to fame or to perform or to like be out there, to follow that because like you're meant to be seen. Will you talk about that a little bit to everyone? Because I feel like so many people have that creative spark within them or that desire that they don't quite understand.
So I always felt like as a child, I daydreamed a lot about, being on stage. I actually had a conversation yesterday about this. And if you ever have had daydreams about you performing or being seen, or that is not even really just a daydream, that's a prophecy that you saw at a young age.
I love that.
Before you were, societally programmed to believe anything other than that you are greatness, right? Like we come into this world believing in ourselves and believing that we are abundant and we are meant to be stars. And that's so beautiful because here's the thing. You are. It might just take different shape is always what I tell people. Like, for example, for me, when I was 8, I always wanted to sing. I would take voice lessons and I told my dad I wanted to have a band and I was going to be a singer because I always saw myself on stage with a microphone. And the only example that I had at that time was like Christina Aguilera. So I'm like, that's me. I'm Christina Aguilera.
I'm obviously Christina Aguilera. Yeah.
Right. But in reality, it was just that I wanted my voice to be heard, right? So then I release a podcast and it goes number 1, right? So I'm not a singer or performer. I really can't sing at all. I wish I could. Who knows? Maybe I'll pick it up later.
Lessons, you never know. Girl, you could.
You never know.
Maybe find your register.
Yeah. But that's what I'm telling people. Like, if you have this desire to be seen, a lot of people, and I'll do readings and they're like, I've always felt that I would be famous and I feel so cringy saying that out loud. I'm like, no, because here's the thing. Not everyone feels that way. You feel that way for a reason. It's your internal GPS trying to guide you, trying to communicate, and you're fighting it because, you're embarrassed to say that you. And so I always tell people that if you want to be seen because you have a purpose being seen, whether it's people seeing you for your image or your confidence or your gifts or your voice, whatever it is, there's a purpose. And we all have this, this God's plan at play. So I always tell people if you felt that, especially as a child or wanted to perform, do it. It's never too late. It's never, ever too late.
I love that so much. And I do feel like, we have to sometimes, you talk about going back to childhood. Like if you do feel like you're unsure of what your purpose is, let's say someone listening to this is like, you know what, I don't love what I'm doing now, but I'm not quite sure what's right for me. You talk about going back, like in your mind, to really thinking about what you liked to do as a kid. Can you kind of guide someone through that if they're, in that spot right now, just feeling kind of lost?
Totally. I have a in-depth episode if someone wanted a whole hour long of if you're feeling lost. I think it's like episode 2 or 3. So you guys could always reference that. But essentially we're born, and our most authentic code is when we're like 8, 9, 10. I would say before 14, because that's when we are our truest self. We don't care. We're not embarrassed to say, I'm going to be famous. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're just naturally us. And that is our beautiful, perfect GPS that's been planted inside of us. We chose that before we came into this body even. So even at a young age, we know that we have this soul contract agreement, whether or not it's subconsciously or we're consciously aware of it. So I always tell people as you get older, this is a perfect example. I dance a lot on TikTok and I do dance events, and I've had some of my dance TikToks go viral and people are like, oh my gosh, were you on the dance team? And I'm like, no, because somewhere along the way in my life, someone told me I wasn't a good dancer and I got embarrassed and I quit dancing until I was like 27. And then now I do a different type of dance. Like I do more hip hop dance. And before I was doing like structured gymnastics, cheerleading dance. And I don't think I just wasn't very good at it. I wasn't very sharp. It was a different type of dance. But I started dancing and people were like, oh my gosh. And they come to my dance classes and like, I love to dance with you, whatever. But my whole life, I thought I was a bad dancer because someone told me I was a bad dancer. Right. But when I was young, I loved to dance.
Interesting. It's like, it's your kind of dance, and it's coming from a place of joy, coming from inside, not from this outside structure of trying to fit into some other,
totally
dance style.
Yeah. So,
wow. I love that, Anna Grace.
Isn't that crazy? Like
so
truly,
cool.
I wouldn't dance. I mean, until I was 27 in quarantine, and I was bored and started messing around on TikTok. And now people are like, you have seen me. I'm like, LOL, no, I wasn't. I didn't even think I was a good dancer. My mom called me and she's like, I had no idea you could dance. I'm like, I don't think I did either. Because
it was in there.
It was in there somewhere, but someone embarrassed me and I stopped dancing, right? So that's what happens. That's why I'm saying if you can go back on this 8-year-old version of you, I say 8 because that's when I was really in my truest form, I feel. But whatever version where you remember daydreaming or you remember believing in magic or believing that you were a star, right? Whatever age that is, call on her. Like I meditate, I close my eyes, I connect with this younger version, and I try to remember, like, what did I like to do? What did I just love to do that I would lose track of time, right? Like I love to paint. I love to make crafts. I love to bedazzle. I made a line of clothing for my Beanie Babies. But here's the thing.
So cute.
I know. But all of those things, making clothing, dressing, bedazzling things, painting, dancing, quote unquote, singing, it's really podcasting. It's all exactly what I'm doing today that's made me successful. It's the same essence, the same energy of what I did as a child, but I'm really still doing it today. And I just find people get so far removed from what they loved to do as a kid or what they wanted to be when they grew up. Even if it's like a cowgirl, there's some part of a cowgirl that resonates with you. Like maybe you just wanted to feel free or be on a farm or out in nature, who knows? But there's information there that you need to tap into and check in with yourself. Even if you implement an hour a day of spending more time in nature, you don't have to up and quit your job, but there are things that you can weave into your life to make it a more joy-filled life and more just in alignment with your authentic code.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. It's like taking your inner child seriously.
Yeah.
Which is what your inner child deserves.
Totally.
Right? We all deserve that.
Inner child work has been my theme for the last month.
Oh, girl.
Literally.
Same for like years. I had so much unpacking to do.
I know. Like I really do. I call on her often. And anytime a memory comes up where I'm like, oh, she was embarrassed or ashamed or whatever, I literally in my mind, in visualization, imagine that I'm hugging that version of her, the small version of me. And I'm like sending her so much love. And I'm like, I'm going to make you so proud.
Yeah.
you know,
so beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And
it's a journey.
It's a journey. And we're all on it, and there's never an end to it. Like, that's why we're here. But with you also, you've talked about how like you've seen so many changes in your life now that you have tapped into like this next level of your journey of, doing this type of work. And you talk about how like you've even changed the way that you look, you've noticed. Will you tell us about some of those changes that you think start to happen when you're like really aligned?
Yeah. Oh, this is so good.
Interesting.
It is really interesting. So our physical state, we really can, this is the information I've gotten from the Akashic records, is that we can actually manipulate the energy of our physical appearance and our body so much easier than we even know. Like we have so much autonomy over our own frequency because everything is vibrating, right? So if we're changing the vibration physically, our form will change in like response to that vibration change. Mm-hmm. But we've been conditioned to think, oh, we must track calories and exercise and it's hard and work hard. So since that's the narrative that's been fed to us, that's the belief system we were raised to believe. And so we believe that. And then it's the change is slow and blah, blah, blah. But in the Akashic records, they're like, no, it's actually fast. You guys have been misinformed and this is an outdated system. The transformation could be overnight. And you hear those crazy stories of people going to like a Joe Dispenza retreat. Have you heard these? And they have a tumor and then they like do these intense 14-hour meditations and they literally free the trauma from their body and it's gone. Have you heard these types of stories?
No, I have not heard that. Not that particular thing. Wow.
Yeah. Well, because if you think about it, everything in our body is just in some way like cancer is like stored trauma. Energy. Yeah. It's all an energetic. Everything is like there's a root energy, spiritual, right? If we're just energetic beings, everything is energy. And so things can be released and changed and tweaked all the time at a much faster speed, especially, if you want to manifest a stronger immune system. I mean, I get really specific with mine. Like I've gone through digestive issues and inflammation in the body. And people tell me all the time, like every 6 months I see them, they're like, you look different. I'm like, I know because I'm manifesting my face or things to change. So
you look different now than you did a year ago. You've always been beautiful. Absolutely. 100%. You look more like, I would say just like, well, you look younger, which is interesting. You've aged backwards, number one. Yeah.
I love it.
And then you just look more like vibrantly alive. Like that. That's just what comes to me when I see you now. Vibrantly alive.
I love that.
You really have this extra energy.
Oh, thank you. I will receive that compliment. Yes. Well, and this is the perfect example that I think I gave on TikTok is, so the day I launched my podcast. So if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I already have over 100,000 followers there. So I have people that, just reply to me all the time that they'll say like, you look different or you're glowing or whatever.
And it's Anna Grace Newell, right? That's her. Okay. TikTok and Instagram.
Yes. At Anna Grace Newell on all platforms. Thank you. Yes. So I launched the podcast, which for me was very vulnerable. My whole following thinks I'm this fashion person, but really I've been doing readings for years for people. Like I'm a very advanced spiritually. And I was always like, oh, religion and politics, you don't want to talk about them. That's how I was raised. And so it was, I had to, really like hype myself up to release this podcast. I'm like, just rip the Band-Aid. I'm just going to do it.
It's so brave.
I know. Yeah.
I'm sure that was a real block.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so I felt like when I posted it, like, just like you said, it was a real block. It released something inside of me because that day I was talking on stories. Hey guys, I released my first podcast episode. This is a real raw version of me that no one has ever heard or seen on any platform ever. I'm not kidding, like 1,000 DMs that day of people being like, you look something about you today. You look so different. Or people were going, what makeup did you do? It's like they couldn't even figure out how I looked different because they were like, did you do something different? What did you do your makeup? We want a tutorial. You're glowing. Like you looked so different today. And it's just interesting that I have this audience of people that couldn't even understand how I looked different. But they're like, you look different. And I'm like, I think just stepping into my true essence and my authenticity, I released this like block or this energy or something because when I showed up on Instagram that day, everyone was like, what? You look so different. So I'm still trying to like work on the exact energetics of that day because I don't know, but I do know the more you step into your truth, the more your body aligns. That's why when people, they're working out with like a more joy-filled approach versus a fear-based, I must work out to look different. Mm-hmm. You actually are altering your vibration and your frequency. That's why you'll actually look better just doing something that makes you happy versus doing the intense workout, because your body is like, I'm stressed out, I'm not happy with myself. And that's just showing all over your face and your body, inflammation, all types of ways. So it's very emotional and it's very intimate. And we've gotten that kind of disconnected as a society, I find.
That makes sense. Like when you see somebody who, someone might be very beautiful, but if they are super negative or they just seem kind of like, dead inside, they don't have that captivating beauty versus somebody who's like really just like, you can tell they're charged up, loving what they're doing. Like, I think we're all attracted to vibrancy. We're all attracted to life. And that makes so much sense that we just like can see each other's energy probably.
Totally. And that's what I was telling people. Humans were so much more telepathic than we even realized. It's like you walk into a room and we feel things, or we'll see something about someone. We're like, it's just off. I don't know how. It's very often. That's
like I just get a bad vibe or whatever.
Right. But we're telepathically scanning their energy, or we're seeing things that we just aren't really seeing in the physical, but our body, because our body registers information, whether or not our brain understands. We're like, something's not right there. Austin is that way. He's very intuitive, but he doesn't have any type of vocabulary or experience in any type of energy because he was raised more of a strict, religious background. So it's all very foreign to him, but he's like, we were at a concert one time and this woman was playing this glass like bottle with a drumstick, like a little ding. And he goes, it's about to break. 3 seconds later, it exploded.
Oh my gosh.
He has these
crazy,
he has these very psychic moments. I'm like, that was your psychic sense. Oh.
That's how Michael is too. My husband, he's a lawyer and he used to be a coach. He used to coach college football as well. And like, he is extremely intuitive. Like he can tell different things when he's like, in the courtroom, and when he meets people, he just like gets a vibe about them way before I do. But he doesn't really believe in like any psychic type of thing, or he's not super spiritual or religious. But I'm like, you have no idea how psychic you really are. I always tell him that. Like, you have no clue.
That's the thing. I tell everyone, and people I always like introduce myself as an intuitive because I find people feel the word psychic sounds like someone on the side of the road saying like, come into my shack or something.
Yeah, like a Miss Cleo connotation where you're
totally,
totally.
But I do find
I struggle with that too. It's hard for me to label what I do as well. Cause I'm like, I don't know. Like I kind of know things. I use the cards, I use astrology, but I use angel numbers. Like I don't really know what's coming through, but
just let it come through.
I always try to give a positive, loving message. So
totally. And as long as that's your intention, that's all that matters. I definitely do feel that my gift is more so future prophecy. Like I do mediumship work, but I feel really confident with my wait list in the future casting. And that's what most people come to me for. But if I feel
future casting,
there's like a block or something that someone needs to hear on the medium realm, then I'll summon that energy too. But I lean a little bit more towards future casting. But that's why it's funny. I tell people we are all psychic. Every single human on this planet is psychic. It just shows up in different forms. And for me, I mean, I literally practice and train. And granted, I've seen angels, so I definitely have some visuals. Maybe people don't, but at the most part, we can feel it, hear it, see it. And we don't even really know we're doing it. We're just naturally doing it.
Will you describe some ways that people who are listening to this might not realize that they're psychic, like different ways that people tap into intuition? Because you talk about that on one of your podcast episodes. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. Well, I find a really good place to start, did we ever end up doing this? I think we just ended up doing your Akashic records. We
went deep into the Akashic records.
We did.
We never had time for human design.
Yeah. Okay. So in human design, there is a section that's your intuition, which is your authority and how you feel intuition. So there are some people that are emotional. They'll have like an emotion response. Shannon, do you know Shannon?
Listen to her podcast.
Yes.
My friend Alexis is on the same podcast network as Shannon also.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
It's a small world.
It is a small world. We're all connected,
Yeah, in many ways. The grid and
and this. So Shannon she has like a very intense gut intuition to the point where if something is off or wrong, she gets physically sick. Like physically her gut like she'll have like problems with digestion. So there's so many ways. You're splenic, you can feel it. Intuition, I always say it comes in. This is a good one too. Like your intuition will come in very like lightning, very fast. There's no emotional charge with your intuitive voice versus an anxious thought or an intrusive thought. There will be a feeling of fear attached with that thought. And it might be anxious or intrusive thoughts. They're typically in the past or the future. Your intuition keeps you in the present moment. That's kind of how you can decipher the difference between honing your intuitive voice. Your intuitive voice, she doesn't have to explain herself. He or she, excuse me. But for me, my intuition, she doesn't have to explain herself. She is sovereign. She's in her power. Anxiety and intrusive thoughts, chatty, creating a storyline, creating a narrative for something that might happen, has happened in the past, a reason, what if, blah, blah, blah happens. That's anxiety. It's never intuition. Intuition is just one sentence or a few words. And then your human design profile is a really good way to hone how your intuitive voice comes through. Highly recommend everyone doing that. I'm not affiliated with the app. I wish I was because I think it's awesome, but
What's the app they can go? Oh, sorry. You're about to say it.
No, you're good. It's My Human Design. And it's, make sure you have my in the front because there's some that are just human design. It's My Human Design. And there's a free version that's got some good information. I have the paid version. I find it's really been super helpful because I do everyone in my life's chart. I understand Austin's, even their digestive profile is really helpful too. If you're living with people in the same space, Zane, who's 11, his digestion profile is that he finds security and consistent meals. Well, so when Austin is like, you need to eat more broccoli or eat vegetables or change it up. And he's like, no. And I tell Austin, I'm like, no, he feels comfortable in consistency in meals. So we're going to let him do what he wants to do because he's intuitive right now. He's 11.
I love that. You're honoring his outer child, like helping him from right now to trust himself. That's cool.
Totally.
I love that.
So there's so many ways versus your intuitive voice, your digestion profile, and really your life theme comes through. Mine is the life experimenter, martyr, which means like literally, I literally died to see there was a spiritual realm and then come back and teach people. That's my life theme.
On. Yeah. Dead on. Mine is the role model hermit. That makes sense though. I mean, it's spot on. Like it hits. It really hits. Yeah.
Human design is, I've done all of the practices. I've done all the tests, personality tests, astrology, all the things. And human design is the most accurate. Yeah. And all the clients that I see, it's really in alignment with their Akashic record. So
interesting.
Yeah. It's one of those that it's not astrology. If you guys are new to human design, it's more of like a scientifically specific version of a personality test to you. They're pretty detailed.
Like you put
charts.
the same information in, like you put in like birth date, time and all that, but it's like a totally different system.
Yeah. So I'm always tell people, I don't really know how it works, but all I know is that it works.
That it works. Yeah. Like it's your tool. Love it. It's so interesting. And like finding out like your type, like I know I'm a generator, like, and I learned all this from you. I had never worked with it before and I want to get more into it. Like you're a projector, like you can find out just how you use energy, which I think is so essential, right? Like, let's talk about energy a little bit before you go. I know you have a heart out in about 10 minutes. So when it comes to like managing our energy, a lot of the time, like, especially if we are very intuitive, I think a lot of the people that probably listen to us, they're into this. They probably have an intuitive bend as well. If people are feeling drained, or let's say they are in a household where, their significant other believes different things, or they eat in a different pattern, how can people manage their energy, stay connected to themselves, and recharge when they start feeling overwhelmed by information?
Okay. Yeah. So
asking for a friend and for myself.
Well, so whether or not, this is what I will say too, because we talk about whether or not my parents or my partner, Austin, or anyone in my life truly understands me, I will never know. I think all you can do is ask someone to be respectful of your belief system. Like I always say, I'm not going to push this on you, because Austin's funny because I'll have like intuitive messages for him. And sometimes he's like, I don't want to know right now. He's like, I just want it to unfold how it's supposed to unfold, because he'll get fixated on certain outcomes. So he's like, I don't want to know right now. So that's what I'm saying. I never force any of my beliefs on anyone, but I do really clearly communicate where I am at, like energetically, like if I'm feeling drained or I need to step away or, you know, whatever. Those boundaries have been set with my family, friends, Austin. They're just very aware, like, hey, you know, my digestion profile is that I like to eat in a calm and quiet environment. So we've kind of set it up where like I'll eat before and then I'll make dinner for him and Zayn and like sit with them and serve them. Right. Like, because that makes me feel really good. But I just explain to people how I thrive and what's best for me. And they're never going to, and anyone could say this to a loved one, a family member, like, hey, I actually feel more comfortable doing it this way. Could we just try it out and see how that feels for everyone? Like, you know, my human design says I actually, you know, eat a heavier meal at night or whatever. It doesn't have to be about meals, energy in general, or like some people are really sensitive to devices. So I will, if they're watching TV, I'll go into another room and I'm like, hey, I'm just going to like do my journal and meditate. Like I just have been very, very clear about communicating where I'm at energetically. I'll tell Austin, like, I'm feeling kind of drained right now. Or if we're having an intense conversation, I'll just be like, you know what? Let's just hit pause. Let's just like step away. I'm going to like lay down and close my eyes for a minute because I'm a projector. So I need a lot more rest than he does. Yeah. And then like, I think I'm just tired. So I'm going to come back and like, we'll bring this conversation up. I think it's just really, really honoring your energy levels and communicating them is really what it's come down to. Because whether or not Austin knows 100% what the hell I'm ever talking about, he knows that that's just what I'm feeling. And he supports that and respects me. When you're with people that you cannot control or that, you know, coworkers or people that just dump, that's where I do a lot of energetic protection. I'm doing those courses on AG University because essentially we are these little, you know, these rods, like as if we were a radio station. And instead of being like allowing all the stations, we just want to stay tuned into our frequency.
Yes.
And that can really be done by, you can do visualization practices, you can set boundaries, you can do things to set up your energy as a container at the start of the day. Do you do an energetic protection practice?
No, I was just thinking I really need to. I need to do something that opens it and closes it because I haven't been, because I thought, oh, I don't really need to do that. It's fine. And I've noticed I will stay tuned in for like way too long and I can feel other people's emotions. Like I'm a sacral chakra, like sacral connected. And so I will actually feel it and I'll keep that emotion in me. And it really can like exhaust me. And I'm like, this isn't even my thing. I don't know why I'm still feeling it. I got to work on that. That's helpful.
Well, I have two things. Yeah, because this is what I always tell people. I was teaching in the course. I literally just recorded it last week. I'll send it to you when it's live.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, there's like an advanced energy practitioner or just like a basic energetic protection. Just if you're going into an office or somewhere with a lot of energy.
Or around the holidays, going home.
Yeah. Oh,
whether you practice this or like as a psychic or, you know, connect to those energies or not.
Right.
Or there are environments where we need some protection.
Totally. Because it's literally as if we are an iPhone and we have all these apps running in the background. Right. Yes, like we have to close them out so that our, you know, we preserve our iPhone battery, we preserve our battery. Because if you're just allowing everyone's energy to come in and you're feeling it and all these things that you're like, that's not even my shit. I don't want it.
Right. And you're like, I'm so drained. And like, I have things that I need to do.
Yeah.
I need to be able to detach from this. Yeah.
Well, one trick I'll tell you today, if you ever get into you're in a crowd or you're feeling other people's emotions or you're in a crystal shop or whatever, and you're like, oh, well, I'm tuned in right now and I need to like hone the energy, you can always put your hand over your belly button. Okay. And just go ahead and say like, I'm closing the center down. Like I call back my power to me now. And that's just one way because our belly button, that's our chakra through here. That's really processing, especially if you're in that sacral, that's really just allowing your body's just kind of reading energy just to like, I'm keeping her safe or I'm looking, you know, it's just running. But when we put our hand over our belly button, we're like, okay, we're going to let all this energy go another direction. We're going to come back to ourselves and center right now and just kind of get grounded in the body. That's just a fast one. If I'm at the airport and I'm like, oh,
I like that.
I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I do that. Put your hand over your belly. And it literally physically tells your body like, hey, we're not allowing this energy in right now.
That's such a good one. I love that. Well, thank you for that. And
you're welcome.
Before you go, is there anything else that you have like noticed or learned through your practice with, reading people's Akashic records or through your own work and journey of coming out? Is there anything that you think you want to communicate to our audience that will help them out on their journey?
I think the one thing that always comes through at the end of every reading for everyone that I always get, so essentially I'm going into the Akashic records. It's like my spirit team is meeting with your spirit team, and whatever word that looks like for you guys, God, Jesus, angels, higher self, whatever. We're all in this little meeting room together. And a lot of the times I get, he or she is not clearly communicating with us what it is that she wants to manifest right now. I get a lot of that.
Love it.
And also we're always listening. They don't have to go through me. Anyone can talk out loud to a loved one who's passed or their angel team or their spirit guides, because our spirit guide, where it feels most comfortable for you, higher self, they're always working. They're always, even if you don't feel like things are moving, they're always doing things for us. And they like when we kind of give them direction or we talk to them. So I am in constant communication, even if I'm not in the middle of a reading or a time where I'm like really receiving a lot of information. Even if I'm at night, before I go to bed, I always say a prayer, for my angels to watch over me and make, keep me safe, because I don't want to have scary dreams. I mean, literally anything that's going on with me, like if I need a sign, if I'm moving in the right direction, anything to do with, health, healing, like literally you can speak it. And I always tell people, like, speak it out loud when you're in your car driving alone, talk to them. They're always like, we are listening. They're not communicating with us. So that's something that I always go to the end of the reading. They're like, she's not telling us. And yes, there is the telepathic piece, but I do find when there's something that you're really like stuck on, or you need confirmation, or you need a sign, or you need clarity, just ask.
You're not alone. Yeah.
Here.
That's so beautiful. I love that.
I know.
That's so comforting.
Really comforting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
We have like a best friend that's just watching over us all the time. That's how I feel. So yeah, just, and they're like, we're here. Hello.
They're like, we're just waiting for you to notice. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, this is our assignment. You are our assignment. So, talk to us.
That is so cool. I love that so much. And I love everything that you've had to share with us. Anna Grace, you're just such a special being, and I just appreciate you. Please tell everybody where they can find you, how they can follow you, how they can continue to learn more through AG University and all the things you have going on.
Thank you so much. I always love talking with you. You just like speak my language and you make me feel so seen and heard. So I really appreciate your friendship.
I appreciate you too, girl.
Well, thank you guys for listening and for tuning in today. If you would like more information on kind of topics we touched on, AG University is my podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. My website is Anna Grace Newell, at Anna Grace Newell on all platforms. If you're interested in any of my courses on learning to hone, so AG University is a school. It's a school from the cosmos, and it's a school that is here to connect you with your intuition and giving you clarity on connecting you with your soul's purpose. So any of the courses, or if you're ever interested in scheduling a reading with me, we're actually looking to bring on more readers as well. So it's going to be growing. So everyone will get some love. You can join my newsletter, and that's the link in my bio, in my Instagram, and my TikTok. You can join my newsletter from my website, Anna Grace Newell. You'll find everything there. So yes.
Fantastic. Well, Anna Grace, thank you so much. We're also excited to keep watching your journey unfold. And thank you for uplifting us. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you. Mwah.